lot more than I thought. All right, good evening, everybody. At this time, if you're able to rise, please do so for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we appreciate everybody coming tonight and apologize again that we had to miss last week. So before I open up the first hearing and privilege of the floor, as the board has spoke, we'd like to just talk for a second with you all about some things that we've seen and read in, I guess you'd say, news articles and Facebook posts. 3 weeks ago, when Mr. Giaquinto gave us the presentation for the community and for the board, he always goes through what this year's budget is and potentially what next year's budget is going to look like and what the difference is there, assuming everything stays the same. Well, in the real world, nothing stays the same. We know it's going to change a little bit, right? And that's what these meetings do. So tonight, not 3 weeks ago, tonight starts budget season for Scotia-Glenville. Not one person up here said that we are going to raise taxes 12%, regardless of what you may see someplace else in so-called journalism. Not one of us said that. To do that, it would take 4 of us to do that. There is no way, I can guarantee it, you're going to have 4 people up here say we're going to do that, right? I understand it's a hot button from what was said and what was, again, so-called reported and on Facebook, but the board isn't raising taxes 12%, okay? The similar thing is that, and I rewatched the video, the comment was made about staff. Nothing was mentioned that we're laying off staff. We need to look hard at the entire budget from page 1 to 525 of this budget, and that's what we're here to do. We appreciate everybody coming tonight. We want to have open communication with everybody, not on Facebook. Let's have one-on-one real conversations. Call us, email us, text us. I'm pretty visible in this community. It's not hard to miss me. Talk to us. That's what we're here for. We appreciate one-on-one. We want to make what's best for our community, for you, the staff, for our administrators, and most importantly, our students. Because this board, we support every one of those entities that we just talked about. So at this time, I'll open up the first hearing and privilege of the floor. I would remind everybody in the group tonight that the first one's 30 minutes. Each person that wants to address the board has a hard 5 minutes. Tonight, we will stick to 5 minutes, unlike previous board meetings, since there's a lot of people here. Kathy in the back is kind enough to tell me at the 4-minute mark, so I'll let you all know you have 1 minute left, and then at the 5-minute mark. And with that, who wants to go first?
Good evening. My name is Sarah Hoffman, and I'm the Scotia-Glenville Teachers Association President. I represent the teaching staff, school counselors, speech therapists, school psychologists, librarians, nurses, teaching assistants, and aides and monitors. We are here tonight to speak about the current state of the budget. We learned about the state of the budget through media and without communication about staff reductions out to before it was made public. As educators, we all know that we're facing challenges that test our resolve and our ability to deliver the best education to our students. The topic at hand today is one that has been weighing heavily on our minds, the budget deficit, and how it affects not only the future of our students, but also the dedicated professionals who make up our teaching force. It's no secret that we're in a tough financial position. The budget deficit looms large, and while tough decisions must be made, we must remember the consequences of those decisions will impact the very foundation of our educational system. We need to remember that as you are called upon today as Board of Education members to list your negotiables and your non-negotiables, that with each item you want to save, there will be a cut that's made to make that happen. Our school district is currently 3% below the state average for graduation rate, and while things like athletic trainer might seem important, we also need to remember that with that decision will come academic loss. Each year I sit here and I listen to the budget process and what this Board of Education rates as their most important items. I rarely hear academic programming on that list. Last year, through the budget process, we lost remedial reading supports at the high school, and for the first time in my 23-year career here, We do not have a certified remedial reading teacher at the high school. This was never talked about publicly, but it was a consequence in a time when our graduation rates are at an all-time low. I point this out simply to make sure that we're looking at all angles when making tough decisions. I know we all agree that we cannot afford to sacrifice the quality of education for our students, nor can we afford to neglect the well-being of our teachers. But here's where we're asking to do things differently this year. We want to be a part of the solution. The teachers' union is not here simply to object or to stand in opposition. We want a voice at the table. Do we have a long-range planning committee that's looking at graduation rates, academic programming, reduction in our school population? We need one. And this Scotia-Glenville Teachers Union, many who are represented here tonight, should be represented on these committees to have a voice. We need to be a part of these conversations. We want to collaborate with administrators, policymakers, and all stakeholders to find viable solutions that protect both the education of our students and the livelihoods of those who are on the front lines every day. The educators who stand with me tonight, who give everything to ensure that every student will reach their full potential here at Scotia. We are not just teachers. We are partners in the process. We understand that saving programs must be part of the solution, but we also know that cutting programs without careful consideration can have far-reaching consequences. The programs we cut today could be the ones that save our students' future tomorrow. We believe that with the right resources, we can balance this budget without sacrificing the critical programs that support student success. Improving the graduation rate should be one of our top priorities. I know that this board and administration has said it is a top goal, but where is the action plan with real steps on how we improve it? It is not enough to declare it a priority if we have no path to actually achieve it. We know that this district can and should do better in ensuring that every student walks across that stage, diploma in hand. But we can't improve graduation rates without the support and resources that our teachers need to do their jobs effectively. We need to preserve smaller class sizes, access to professional development, and the tools necessary to help all students succeed, especially those who face significant challenge. This is not a fight that can be won in isolation. Teachers need to be at the table as decisions are made about the future of our school district. We have insights into what works and what doesn't, and we know that when we are included in the conversation, we can come together to find creative, sustainable solutions to our financial challenges. I urge everyone, district leaders, community members, teachers alike, to work together. We are all in this for the same reasons, to give our students the best possible education. Let's not allow financial hardship to divide us. Let's find ways to bring our collective knowledge and our passion for education into the conversation so that we can move forward as a united force, stronger than before. Together, we can make sure that this district remains a place where students thrive, where their teachers are valued, and our community can stand proud. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amy Marlette. I'm at 506 Mohawk Avenue. I am not a teacher in the district. I am simply a very concerned parent. When I watched the last board meeting, I was very concerned. Tonight, during the superintendent's presentation, I anticipate you're going to hear a lot of things about a thing called natural attrition. I'm an HR professional and I know exactly what that means. And that's not replacing the 8 retiring teachers at Scotia-Glenville. 4 of those, 50%, come from Sac-and-Dog Elementary. Do not let SAC pay the price for your budget deficit. It's not fair. We already have class size inequity. We're the largest elementary school in the district, and our classes are very large compared to the other schools. I'm a problem solver, so I won't stand here without solutions. A couple of things. Taking public data and looking at the superintendent salary, and I know this has been all over Facebook. I've been one of the people to say it on Facebook. Doing a current market value of a superintendent serving Schenectady County children is $200,084. Our superintendent makes 16% higher than that. How did that happen? In the 2024 negotiations with our superintendent, this board approved that. The other piece, we have 4 academic heads that do not teach. The data in New York State that says the academic heads that support grades 6 through 12 is 4,000 students served. We serve 2,200. Why? That's a great question. And lastly, and I'm going to put some of my credentials on the line here, I'm a certified employee benefits specialist, and I hold a New York State life accident and health license, so I can sell and broker life accident and health coverage for small and large groups. My broker walked in and told me I should expect a 17% rate increase. He'd be fired on the spot, and I'd be getting a new broker, and the RFP would be out the door before he hit the doorway. 17% at a renewal for a self-insured plan is absolutely insane and doesn't make any sense. Captive renewals do not come out until April, and I understand you're expecting 30%. However, there is cost mitigation that can be done. Have we talked about Canna RX? Nope, that's not cannabis. That's an importing of drugs. What step therapy? Have we done that? I've been in benefits for 18 years, and I've done benefit administration with 152 different rate classes, supporting 54 different unions. 7 contracts, that's nothing. There's ways to do it. There's ways to mitigate that cost. Why? What is the district doing to mitigate the health insurance increase? Because that's what you're saying. It's 90%. 1% of your population is 90% of your bill. There's ways around it. So all of this is to say, how did this happen? It is not lost on me that our 0.6 FTE HR person left the district in 2023. I'm going to assume with that, people's salary analysis left, and all of the benefit administration knowledge that was in the district left at that time as well. Instead of contracting with a retired HR person from a district that is 3 times the size of Scotia-Glenville, maybe it's time to hire an HR person. Please do not let Sacandaga pay the price for this budget. Thank you.
Jason Kinney, 17 North Toll. I don't want to take too much time away from anyone else who wants to speak up tonight because I know they have important issues. But I just wanted to take quick issue with the notes from January 27th when I came to speak. As it says in the minutes that a community member spoke of their displeasure of how some sporting issues have been handled. The individual felt that most of these issues have not been taken care of from the leadership of the district. I don't know how many people here saw my speech or how many people were present in my speech, but I feel that is a gross misrepresentation of what I spoke about that night. I briefly talked about sports. The majority of what I spoke about had to do with the superintendent and the mishandling of the rest of the district, not just sports. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Angela Piazza and I live at 813 Charles Street. So as a parent, as an educator, and as a member of this community, it is incredibly disheartening to see the struggles and difficulties that this district is experiencing. Highs and lows, ebb and flow is natural to all parts of life. However, it seems as though this district is in a constant state of low. Declining enrollment, unequitable class sizes across elementary schools, curriculum that may not be best supported by research, for example, the use of Fountas and Pinnell, or by curriculum that is not dynamic and simply has our children learning from workbooks. The difficulty parents face navigating the special education process, school-wide communication, athletics, atrocious steps and pay in the teacher's contract, talks of collapsing sections of elementary grade levels, possibility of faculty staff reductions, the major shortfall in the budget, the top-heavy nature of the administrative circle and supervisors and department heads when compared to the size of the district. Quickly, I grew up in a small rural school district. My husband grew up in Burnt Hills. For the last almost 19 years, I've worked for one of the largest top-performing districts in the capital region, where my children have the opportunity to attend. You know, that's a benefit of my contract. They would be afforded many experiences and opportunities academically, in the arts, athletically. However, my husband and I decided to plant deeper roots in this community. To me, Scotia-Glenville is the best of both worlds, small town community feel. You know, we have the access to suburbia. a decent school district, the size of which can provide them many opportunities if managed the right way. And they wouldn't just be a name or number in a large school district. We have met some of the best people, some of our best friends are in this community. The teachers my daughters have had and have currently are incredible. We feel very blessed. We recognize that those teachers are doing the best they can under the precise conditions that you, the Board of Education and Central Administration, provide to them. And it's just not enough. You need to pour more into your faculty and staff who directly pour into our children. You need to do more for your community and families and be clearer in your communication and desire to want them to be a part of changing the course this district is on. You need to be more precise in your assessment of enrollment and trends. Why are families leaving? Why are teachers leaving? You need to continue to develop the strength of the athletic department, but I think Mrs. Tabiano she's a breath of fresh air recently. And you need to reflect on the reasons why you're sitting where you are. Is it truly to make a difference? Do you want to help all children and families and support teachers, or are you in this position because it is self-serving? Should you truly be sitting where you are? Maybe it's only been 3 years, or maybe it's been nearly 30. But is your heart in the right place? And then to the community, we've elected this board. We're saying we trust them to make decisions and do what is best for our children. We've elected them to put and keep people in positions of authority. But is it currently the right thing? Are they doing the work they said they would do when they campaigned? As parents and community members, we need to continue to do our part and get involved. We need to hold district officials accountable for their decisions and actions. Major change is needed, and it is not in the classroom. It is in your office at Prentice Parkway. Thank you.
My name is Christina Stryjek. I reside at 114 Silly Street, Scotia, and I have 2 children who attend Sacandaga Elementary School and an infant. With the economy the way it is today, we taxpayers cannot afford the above 3% increase of taxes. We as taxpayers have supported your increase ever since I've lived here for 12 years, but not any longer. We live in a community that has many churches and community groups that support our community members with free lunches on weekends, fresh fruits and veggies at local stops, backpacks full of food for our students, and many outreach programs that have only increased in need over the last year. We do not accept the idea of cutting teachers to balance your budget. We have a hard time keeping the great and highly qualified staff that we have, and we shouldn't be cutting teachers to balance a budget. We are already losing teachers to other local schools like Ballston Spa, who have better step pay scales. For example, we start similar salaries as Ballston Spa, but in the middle of the pay scale, their teachers make $10K more than our teachers. It's rather sad to see where we stack up with other schools around us. We should be more competitive than this to attract and keep highly qualified teachers. We taxpayers have been looking at the excessive salaries of administrators and department heads, yes, on Facebook, in our district, and think that we should be looking there to make concessions. Perhaps they should be asked, just as teachers have over the years, to share duties. For example, why do middle school and high school teachers have 4 admins to report to? This is excessive and redundant. On a personal note, I chose to move here 12 years ago because I knew friends who graduated here in the early 2000s who spoke highly of their education here and went on to do great things in their careers. But since then, I have not been impressed with the things that have been happening. Students not being given behavioral supports, students falling between the cracks academically because of the lack of admin support, graduation rates falling below New York State average of 86% at 83%, and only 70% of our economically disadvantaged students graduated in 2023, which is 49 students out of 70 students. These 3 variables are all interconnected, and these issues fall squarely on the shoulders of the administration of our district. We pay you to be leaders of the district, and as evident by the state of the athletic department this year, you have failed us. And this is only what we see in the media. I can only assume that there are other district issues that are not divulged to the public. As for the special education tuitions that were mentioned on the last meeting, being higher than anticipated, I find that extremely hard to believe. And if you didn't know about it, then someone needs to take blame for not knowing this ahead of time. You know that IEPs of the children in our district, what they have, and what specialty schools they are currently enrolled in. Someone is to blame for not following up with these contracts that we have for outplacement. And Board of Ed members, please look to see who is to blame for that. But of course, we didn't just come here with a list of problems. We came here with solutions too. If these schools are getting too expensive, then we should start looking at creating classrooms in our district that support these students' needs, which brings us back to trying to attract and keep highly qualified teachers. I studied this exact issue at the College of St. Rose in 2011, and my professor did this exact plan at Niskayuna and has amazing classrooms for autistic children. Why can't we do that here? Again, we need to start thinking smarter, not harder, and if we hire teachers, aides, sign language interpreters for cheaper than a tuition of a specialty school, then why aren't we doing that? However, we know about these children, and these are legal documents called IEPs that we know about for years. So this is not to be a surprise, but somehow it was. We need to remember these are children, not numbers on a page. In closing, figure out how to balance this budget because the tax increases are not going to pass by us, and it is only going to hurt our economically disadvantaged population even more that only has 70% graduation rate as it is. And don't blame our teachers' insurance issues or failure above the budget. They're not being paid enough as it is, and that has to get better. There has to be a better way to balance the budget than to point the figures at the people caring for our children every day. Start getting creative with less of your admin, work better with less, delegate more duties in the building, principals, board members. I hope that you try to do some sort of evaluation like talked about what the business would do to determine the value and return of investment of our current administrators. Why do we need admin department heads when we can pay teachers stipends for this work? If we are talking about data and graduation rates since our superintendent's arrival in 2005, then the performance is not deeming of her salary, going from 99% graduation rate in 2009 to 83% in 2023 is not worthy of her last salary bonus that the board gave her. Lastly, I hope the Board of Education members do not allow any salary bonuses going beyond the current contracts given. Thank you.
Hello, I'm a student at Scotia-Glenville High School. My name is Elijah Kalinowski. I live on 216 Marcellus Ave, and I got here late, so I don't know what has been discussed the 10 minutes before, but all I would like to say on at least behalf of the students that I can speak for, maybe some don't share the same views as me, but I feel strongly that any cuts or any just taking anything away from the teachers themselves is not the right way to go for the budget. Honestly, obviously, I don't understand what is done, like to do anything with the budget, so I am ignorant in that. But I can tell from each year, it seems that teachers are treated poorer and poorer by the students. And if any cuts are done to those teachers, it's going to make them not want to stay. It's going to want to make them look for other jobs, and we're going to lose those teachers that provide so much to the community and to people like me. I know an example is my choir teacher, Miss Creasy, who not only supports me academically, but she supports me emotionally, as well as hundreds of other children that she has taught to. So, and that's only one teacher out of dozens. So I would not know what to say to any other teacher who has helped kids through years and years of struggle and developing in this new life of becoming an adult. So, as I don't have any direct solutions, all I can say is I feel strongly that any cuts to teachers as a whole would not benefit in any way.
Speaking and having the courage to get up here in front of all your teachers and adults. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board at this time? All right, if not, we will close the first hearing and privilege of the floor. Remind everybody that we do have part 2 of that towards the end of our meeting. And at this point in time, we will start the topic of the night and talk about the budget discussion for 25-26 from Mr. Schwartz and Mr. Giaquinto.
Go back and do a little bit of a review about some of the things discussed 2 weeks ago now, as well as look at some additional information and talk about strategies. So we'd like to start by talking about a couple of myths. Folks who've watched us do budget before know we've done a myths buster section. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague who's going to respond to the difference between the tax rate and the tax levy, and then also how we knew about the financial stress that was coming.
Thank you. The tax levy is the amount of dollars that we need to raise from the community to balance the budget. Basically, it's the gap from what the state aid provides to what we need to cover all the expenditures. The tax rate is what we assign per $1,000 of assessed value per each of the taxable parcels in the community. So what you'll see in a subsequent slide is that the tax levy over the last 12 years, or corresponding to the tax cap years, it's been about a little bit over 2%. But the tax rate, due to the assessed value growth in the district, primarily from some commercial development, a lot of apartments, some businesses, have been at about 1.3%. 1.3% tax rate increase over 12 years, which also aligned with 3 tax rate decreases during that time. As far as the district did not know the financial stress was coming, the board every quarter gets a fiscal projection from me. Each year when we start to go through the budget process, I let them know the impact of decisions that we make on ensuing years. We also go through basically, when we look at 5-year look forwards, we also look at some of the trends that are going on economically. But literally, we don't know what's coming most of the time. We didn't know we were going to have a COVID-19 pandemic. We didn't know we were going to have the financial collapse in 2010 with the Wall Street mortgage-backed security crisis. We just have to react to a lot of things in schools because we're here to provide an education for these students, provide a health and safety environment for our students and faculty. So, but we do the best we can to let the board know where we are, where we're going. And I think if you recall last year's Meet the Candidates, 2 incumbents and Mr. Roberts, who got on the board, were talking about the impact of the fiscal look forward, which would be the declining enrollment and the impact on our current structure of our school system. So, that's it. It's still me. No, you.
So tonight we're going to take a look at our 210 information and some additional information. Answer any questions board members might have. We'll take a little look at enrollment. And then one of the things we must get done tonight is the board is going to have to give us an indication of whether they want to go out under, at, or above the tax levy limit. You know that we report that tomorrow. And this is not a binding decision, but certainly we want to know. And I will be talking to you about negotiables and non-negotiables. And then we're going to talk a bit about our strategies as we move forward from here. So Drew, you're going to go back and talk a bit about the budget.
This is a quick resetting where we were on February 10th, which was the carry forward budget required about $69 million of expenditures, or a 6.33% increase. And I succinctly just tried to show what the reasons were for the increase and also the gap to the cap, which is $2.8 million. The state aid increase, I projected at 2% a year ago. We got that in foundation aid because we're fully funded. The state desensitizes basically the declining enrollment and the fact that our wealth factor has been stable, if not increasing, according to the state calculations. So that state aid was basically expected. We also predicted the pilots would go down. We had 3 pilots that are sunsetting, and they'll move to the tax rolls and generate probably over $500,000 or almost $600,000 of taxable income on the tax assessed value, but that shows up in the tax rate, not in the tax levy, unfortunately. So that's the pilots are declining. Reserves and interest is a slight decrease. Interest rates are falling from the last year. And our tax cap at 3.25 is slightly under 1.1 million. So we're allowed to increase revenue by $1,263,849 to stay at or as a tax cap. So the gap is $2,853,022. Excuse me. Spending highlights in a 600 line item budget can be broken down succinctly. Health and dental increase 17%, which I outlined as the prescription drug increase due to the GLP-1s and specialty drug increase on the Highmark plan. I sit as the president of a consortium of 23 school districts on health insurance, and I've been working on it for the last 18 years, and no one saw the GLP explosion. 4 districts in the 23 are experiencing similar increases, and it's just based on who's taking the benefit. It's not about anybody to blame. It's what's going on regionally, nationally. I've met with the presidents of both CDPHP and Highmark this year, and we have some strategies to try to get some strategies in place. I'll be meeting with collective bargaining units this week on a free market health plan platform to try to get guardrails around the specialty drugs and GLPs. I think we can get that down with some cooperation without affecting benefits and rates as far as what the employees contribute. We also have invoked years ago step therapy, pre-authorization, model plans with the unions cooperating with kind of getting to uniform plans amongst the district collective bargainings. So we've done a lot of work there, but the prescription drug has exploded. Salary and wages, we expected that. That's what we settled at. District out of, special ed out of district tuition on our public placements, 40% increase. We were experiencing about 4% over the last 10 years. So this exploded this year. And that's national and regional. We're seeing an increase in IEPs. The rest is pretty, we had a couple of decreases, debt service, debt falling off, favorable interest rates due to our solid bond rating, and then out of district runs have decreased. So that's the 4.1, but health and dental insurance and special ed out of district are driving those numbers. This is the bar graph that kind of shows how health insurance in the district has stayed pretty stable, and then this year is an abnormality, it's going up. We are an experience rated plan, so we pay for our claims. It's not community rated, it's on Scotia's experience. And again, we sit in a consortium with districts such as Bethlehem, East Greenbush, South Colony, Guilderland, Mahonis, and Shelmont. It's 23 districts. We're seeing this in some shape or form around the table. And then again, the out-of-district placements, you can see the stability there over the years, and then all of a sudden this year it just took off. And again, we didn't see it in the pipeline at budget last year. I did mention to the board as soon as October this year that it was going to affect the 24-25 financials, and it would again affect the budget for 25-26. So I did communicate that early as we could. So what we look like, normally we do the first draft as Hal correctly stated. It's kind of looking at what things would cost moving forward. And we normally see a gap at this time, but nothing like this year. And you can see if we had the normal increases that we thought, 10% in health insurance, 4% out of district tuition, we'd have looked at a $1.1 million cost driver there. We're at 2.8, that's 1.6 that we didn't expect. And that's kind of where we are at 2.8. We'd be normally in that $1 million, let's work on this thing to get it home, but these things were unexpected. State aid increases, you can see how we are. We looked at last year 2, this year 2.5. 23-24 was the abnormality. The governor gave us more money, 9%. But I've been saying we were going to come down to 2, and we're there. And that's 30% of our budget is state aid. So if 30% of your budget's going up 2%, and the bigger number, which is expenses, going up 6%, that's 4% gap. That's a big number. The aid just isn't keeping up with our school system. And then this is our historical, where you can see that the average over the tax cap years, which is 12 years now, 2% tax levy increase average and a 1.3 tax rate, I think. And this year is the abnormality. Again, it's just the first draft, but you can see that 11.79 is certainly a lot more than 2.6 median and 2.07 mean. And certainly 10% tax rate is much higher than a 1.3 tax rate.
What's the tax rate set? Final tax?
Tax rate is set in August by the board, and the tax rolls are not finalized by the assessor until the end of May. And again, this is a slide from last time that would show the impact of an increase of such magnitude. This is the expenditures, or how the budget lies out in proportion to each other. And you can see the instructional is about 53%. Even with a 11% tax levy increase, it's still pretty consistent. But you see the benefits taking a bigger chunk than prior year. But literally, things still stay in pretty much in proportion, as we're moving kind of proportionally despite this big increase, except for benefits. Sorry. This is our head count, with the economic impact of our head count. So I broke it out between general ed teachers all the way down to transportation, 465 people, FTE equivalents, and $44 million in salary and benefits. That's just the position. It's just, how we're laid out and structured. Special ed set aside 52 special ed teachers, 32.6 special ed teaching assistants, 34 aides, and 1.8 secretarial. That's what's supporting the special ed budget. This is our head count budget last year to what we anticipate this year, and you can see it's stable at this point. There was no proposed reductions or anything in the first draft. That's not what I do. I just give you the economic impact of carrying forward. And again, as we go through the support staff and administration, you can see how it's laid out. This budget, prior year budget to the current year budget, very little change at this point.
So if we talk a bit about enrollment and where we're at, just some facts I'd remind you of. School attendance at Scotia, as in most places, is determined by address. However, here, parents and guardians can request that their child attend a school other than their home school. There's usually somewhere between 60 and 75 students who do that at parent request. Each of our 4 elementary schools offers the same New York State standards-based curricula, but I would certainly say in each of those schools it looks a little bit different. Every school has a personality, and I think that's reflected in how things are offered, but certainly not what is being offered. Each of our schools offers library, art, music, and phys ed. And for our students with special needs, because we don't replicate every program in every one of the elementary schools, sometimes our students with special needs attend a school other than their home school so that they're able to get the program that they need. And at present, any K-5 student who comes who is eligible for English as a new language service attends Scotia-Glenville Elementary, and that helps us be a bit more efficient in how we staff. Drew has put together this slide for us about head counts at elementary for each of the 4 elementary schools. Gives you an idea of what our current enrollment is, and then the staff in each of those schools. Drew, what else would you like to say about this slide?
So this is general ed. Does not include special ed. Special ed is it's in various schools, as you all know, but this is the general ed, and broke out the classroom teachers and the support staff, as well as cleaning, nurses, and so forth. So it's an economic look. As you can see, you go from 2.8 at Glendale, almost 2.8 at Glen Warden, 2.8 at Lincoln, and Scotia-Glenville, which has the most students, 4.1 million. So elementary schools, direct cost-wise, are 12.5 million, and then the average students per teacher is down below. So it's this position slide. It's in the first draft of the budget.
If we take a look at our enrollment in the last 10 years, 2014, 2015, as predicted by both Dr. Dukowski and then Steve Zotner, we are still seeing an enrollment decline. We are not unique in this. Many schools in New York State are seeing enrollment declines. So you can take a look at where we've been and where we are at this point. So when folks say to me, what is this with the enrollment? There are some things I want to point out. Over the past 30 years, the birth rate across the nation has declined. This isn't new. It has been ongoing. And nationwide, the birth rates declined at a rate of about 2% per year from 2015 to 2020. The most recent peak in birth rate was in 2007. In New York State, the birth rate declined by at least 5% between January of 2019 to December of 2020. And those were children who entered school in the fall of 2024. And this is the smallest kindergarten class we've seen, 143. Folks will remember when we went from half day, our version of half day, if you will. We were averaging about 185 students per class. When we went to full day K, we got as high as 210 students per class, and that number has come down. If we look at our class sizes by grade level and the total enrollment for students, this is what it looked like in 2014-15. And here's what it looks like today. What I've added here for you is the number of sections we have at each grade level, district-wide. And then if we were to run just a straight mathematic formula based on the class size guidelines the board has had in place since before I came, you can see that in every instance we technically could run fewer sections. Part of why that's not an easy thing to do is because we have students across these geographical areas. And so it's not as simple as saying we can just put 22 students in a class, because somewhere somebody's going to have to move, which is never an easy thing. We have certainly talked about the potential for closing a school. And as I stand here tonight, I would tell you that it's not my desire to close a school. That my desire is that we are in shape to have 4 elementary schools, our middle school and high school, all in operation in the 25-26 school year, and then take that school year to put together a group to study what we want to see elementary schools look like going forward in 26-27. At the rate that we see our decline in enrollment, one of the ways we can close part of that budget gap clearly would be to close a school. Again, that's not my top priority. Perhaps I will hear something different from the board this evening, but my goal is to keep all 4 elementary schools open this coming school year. And I'm going to give it back to Drew.
The next couple of slides are going to show our participation and cost for our athletic programs, which reach a lot of students, which the board and the community have done a nice job of supporting this. So this is just a kind of a fact finder type analysis that we put together to show the board what we have for the fall, the winter, and the spring, and number of students that participate in these sports, and what the cost per student is. It's no more, no less than that. It's just something we kind of track for my own purpose for when we're doing budgeting. So you can see that this is the fall, and includes the coaches' salaries, equipment, officials, and travel. So it's about $196,000 for the fall. I think that's 311 participants. And then the winter, again, 179,264 participants. And then the spring, 209, I think that's 209,402 and 356. So that's the most participants is in the spring. You can see a lot of students are participating, and we offer a lot. As you've been hearing, and one of the board members asked me this question 2 weeks ago, I believe, the federal funding. Special aid, which is the 611 and 619 grants, you can see the comparative funding 23-24 to 24-25. You can see it decreased. And you can see the staffing that's tied to it. I do not directly put people that are funded by the grants 100% in the grant, so that if the grants go away, we still maintain those positions. School lunch, again, that's our school lunch, which is heavily subsidized by the federal government. And you can see off to the side that we are in the midst of a 4-year participation in the community eligibility provision, where all students get breakfast and lunch free. So there's a lot of federal dollars. I think I rounded up to about $3 million last time I talked. It's about 2.8, 2.7. So if that goes, that's a problem. And then categorically, a budget roll-up. I wanted to show that the areas of support and operations have, and I put them in red, where we've been really low or decreases over the years, so we could put, through efficiencies, put the money into the instruction where it belongs. So we're trying to do our job on the building and grounds, transportation, administration, and the main office to keep things efficient, still provide health and safety and support, but allow the money to go to the instructional side where it belongs. We're here for students. So that chart kind of shows that. You can see the low increases in those categories. And these are the propositions. The budget's the big one. And then an EV prop to get the current bus garage able to accept chargers and run conduit. So if we bring the buses in, we can actually run the buses. We'll be hitting this presentation again as we move along the budget process. But if the incentives and state aid stays where it is, there'll be no additional taxes to the community to do this.
Wrap up our formal presentation this evening. We'll be talking about your negotiables and non-negotiables. I'd ask you to keep in mind our strategic goals and annual goals, which we reviewed on February 10th. I will always begin with what's mandated in mind. We layer on classes, programs, or other wants as we can. We have shared with you the pro forma calculation for any new hires, and we will be mindful of our class size targets and enrollment trends. And again, the piece of information we will have to have from you this evening is whether you, at this point, would go out under, at, or over the 3.25 tax levy limit. Thank you.
And Drew? Drew, I just have a question. Wow, it's loud, sorry. The health insurance, just so I understand, because I thought I heard you, but I may have coughed during that point, sorry. Our plan is we're an experienced insurance plan, so we pay our premiums are based off of actual claims that have been submitted?
Yeah, it's a retrospective where basically we set the rate April 1 for the July 1 year, and if the premium doesn't cover it, there's a call. If there's we have a favorable year, they return the money to us. So it's experience rated. We are based on our claim. Whereas, you know, like MVP, HMOs are community rated, so you're based on the region. So, yeah, we're based on our own experience.
Okay. And there was a drastic upswing in, as you said, the GLP-1 this past year?
Yes.
Or going forward,
yeah, just to correct the statement, it's 1.2% of the insureds on the Highmark drug plan, or the ESI they call it, self-funded, drove 42% of the claims.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Questions for Susan Drew?
Question on the health insurance, I mean, I'm not familiar with it. What is the GLP? Is it an acronym for something, or?
That's your weight loss. Wegovy, what's the other one? A couple of them. Example, yeah, that's what those are.
That's it, that's driving it, oh, really?
It stands for something, I forgot. I know what it is, though.
Very expensive.
There's a lot of acronyms.
I had some questions that I sent out in an email that we said we could discuss. Do you want me to ask those questions now? Given the increasing cost for the special education services, I had posed the question that would it be more beneficial to hire in district for the services that we're busing out, since that seems to be the transportation in itself, to bus them out is such a huge cost. Couldn't we, in theory, take that money and hire in district to eliminate that cost or reduce that cost? So that was, I can do one question at a time or whatever's easier. I don't know if that's even a possibility.
We are actually looking at 1 to 2 new programs in-house for September. That will depend in part on what happens during CSE and annual review, and also the CPSC transitions to CSE as kids come in. Drew, if you could talk a little bit about aid for private placements and BOCES placements, and then how that plays against or towards hiring our own staff.
Sure. Out-of-district high-cost students that go to a BOCES program, there's a ratio the state assigns. So the aid ratio is about 64% on what's aidable. So the first, I think it's 55,000 the district picks up, and you get aided 64% on that. So the effective aid is much less than if you go to a private placement, where it's 88% is allowed, is the ratio on, and they almost aid 100% of it. It's a very low, I think it's under 10,000 local share, and you get 88% on that. But the placements are much tighter. We have only 17.85, I believe, private placements, and I think we have 39 out of district in the BOCES programs. The reason is the parameters are tighter, I think, on the private, and George Pataki, when he was governor, did not like BOCES, so incentivized the private institutions and gave a higher ratio, and it's still in place today. But,
So one of the differences, Emily, is that those programs provide the related services, so the counseling, the OT, the PT, music therapy, whatever that child needs. In order to replicate those services here, we have, in some instances, worked with advanced therapy or other private providers. There are some music therapists who are private providers. And once we hire teachers, of course, they become part of our budget and finance. So while I would prefer we brought everybody home, all of our students, we do have to make certain that we can provide what they need here. And I want to make sure, and I know Katie does also, that we do that in a way that ensures those kids can be successful here. So yes, the short answer is yes, we're looking at 2 new classes for next year potentially. Coming back here, at least maybe 1, I'm hoping for 2. But it's a little longer process to bring them all back.
And what would be the timeline? You said you would have to wait for the annual review. When would you know whether that's a yes or no answer?
Annual reviews will be going on right up until May, but they're going on right now. So I'm certainly hoping that we can bring you firmer information as part of our second or third draft about where we think we're going to land.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful information. And then the healthcare, and again, I'm going on some of the journalism. Is there a discussion that can be had about changing the providers, or are we locked into the plan that we currently have?
we have collective bargaining agreements that have plan specifications. You just can't change things unilaterally. But again, being with 23 school districts, we have a lot of, about as good as anybody, purchasing power with CDPHP and Highmark. So it's something we look at, but we're part of a consortium that does that. So it's not I just can't go out and say we're going to MVP. It's got to be part of the consortium. And CDPHP and Highmark are two very good health plans. I think your unions will tell you that. We have good benefits. We provide good service to our employees. And then we've done things like the model plan with the unions, which got us all on a very good same type of platform with the other school districts. So, but there's no money out there it's based on the claims, you know, so there's no magic bullet on this.
Okay, and then I think my other questions would be more appropriate when we have the discussions about the negotiables and non-negotiables. So I will wait my turn on that. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Do we have a list yet of the 25, 26 class sizes yet? Any idea of what's that look like?
No, but I can certainly provide that to you. Right now, we have very low incoming kindergarten numbers.
Okay.
And those won't firm up.
Yeah.
That's always, although this year they are very close to what we anticipated, which was 140. And we have 143. But yes, we can roll those other class sizes up.
Okay. And question for Drew, do we get a definite yet from the governor on foundation aid yet? No, right? Like a actual number, or are we still waiting on?
The governor, I gave you the state aid analysis, and that foundation aid number is what I get. It's from the governor. She gave us her budget.
Okay.
It's in your numbers.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else before we move on? All right, so now, let's see, Susan, you want to go around the room like for our
You lead and I'll take notes.
Negotiables and non-negotiables? So everyone's prepared. Pam, you want to start us off?
As somebody mentioned, there is a person on the board that's been on the board almost 30 years. That's me. I have seen these budgets come and go. I have fought very hard to get things. Mental health, SROs, and the athletic trainer are non-negotiables for me. I feel that if we're going to offer athletics to our students, then it's our responsibility to do what we can to decrease injuries and help kids recover from injuries. And that's the job of the athletic trainer. And if we can hire somebody to come in to take better care of our kids that are playing these sports that we're supporting, then we should be doing that. We should be giving them every bit of help that we can to get them to prevent the injuries and to help recover from the injuries. I feel that's a non-negotiable. Since we put the SROs in a few years ago, I have heard nothing but good things about having the SROs in the buildings. I feel they need to stay. Mental health, the pandemic did us real harm. The whole nation, everybody, real harm. And we have kids that were just barely starting school that were out of school for over a year. And they're having trouble adjusting, still having trouble adjusting, being back in the classroom, socializing with other people, with other students, socializing with the teachers they have trouble with because they haven't had this experience. So I think that what we need to do is we need to do what we can do to help these kids get back to, I don't want to use the word normal, but get back to where we feel they should be to be successful in life. As far as negotiables, it's hard. We've worked so hard and so many years to get where we are. To go backwards is like really, really hard. I don't know what classes we might be able to give up because students don't have interest in them anymore and aren't filling them but would rather have something else, you know, to go to and do. But, you know, maybe the teachers could give us some information if there are any classes that they feel are not meeting the students' needs right now that should be changed or eliminated.
Thank you, Pam. I'll go over this side. Chad, would you like to go next?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, so going through everything, I was kind of glad I got the extra week because I could kind of redo everything because I kind of had an epiphany talking to somebody over the weekend. And when it comes to me, I'm very easy on this as far as what's negotiable. Quite a few things are. What isn't negotiable for me is the education that we're providing for the kids, the curriculum, the people that are delivering that curriculum. Those are non-negotiables to me. When I hear the community talk to me and what they're telling me, when I see the statistics, it tells me that as far as what classes we're putting out there, the supports that we're putting in place, the people we're putting in front of our kids, that's non-negotiable. Everything else, I'm fine to talk about. You know, God bless it. I love the SROs. If you know my background, it's law enforcement. We have two of the most exquisite officers that you will encounter. I truly mean that. But if that means I keep a teacher here, then so be it. So, like I said, really just condensed it down. This is my first rodeo, but that's really where I'm at when it comes to non-negotiables and negotiables.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir. Emily?
It's interesting that you said that, because I feel like in a week's time or on any given day that the thought process changes depending who I talk to, and the epiphanies, as you so eloquently said. Initially, I had said that non-negotiables would be the SROs, mostly after we had the safety forum, and I heard them talk, and exquisite is a perfect word to describe them. And I've also heard nothing but good things about them. Obviously, I'm going to say that absolutely no cuts to the arts whatsoever, and I will say that until I'm dead, and I'll still be saying it. So that is a non-negotiable. As far as the negotiables, and I went through this budget all with my magnifying glass and all of these line items, and I posed this in a question to the board also earlier this week, is because, and I think this is information that we need to say, the board doesn't oversee the day-to-day operations of the school. So for us to now sit here and say, and this isn't a fault, this is the way it is everywhere, this isn't a Scotia problem, to put it on the board and say, what are your negotiables and non-negotiables, I think we should be asking the people who are responsible for the day-to-day operations. I would love to have a conversation, to Sarah's point and to other points, and to Pam's point, why don't we ask the people who are providing it, what's working, what isn't working? Including the mental health services. We need the mental health services, but now that we're a few years post-COVID, has there been a determination as to which ones are really working for the purpose that they were put in place to do? Are they working? Do we need to change them now? I'm not saying to cut them, but what's effective and what's not effective? And someone else spoke about getting creative, and I think the way to get creative is to ask the teachers, the department heads, the admins, what would you suggest? And I see a lot of things on here on the budget that say miscellaneous, 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 and I don't know what those are. You know, my gut is to say, well, if we don't know exactly what these are, you know, then maybe that's something we should be looking at. There are I see a lot of supplies on here that are things like, there's something here about copying, and I don't know if that's, and there are multiple lines for that. So is that like one of those a cost for a copy machine? Is one for copy supplies? Is one for distributing? It's kind of vague. And again,
one says copier supplies, and one says copy paper, one says copier maintenance. I mean,
does it? I mean, I don't have it. I don't have the exact line right in front of me, but some of these are. It's just not clear to me exactly what they are, so I can't speak to them. There's also a lot of things that you can say. Field trips. You know, there's a whole lot of field trips. But even, and I'm not saying we're going to cut field trips, even if you cut all of them, it's nickel and diming. It's not, you know, and we would have to look at, you know, bigger items. I'm bamboozled by the price of the textbooks. I would love to hear more about that. What about the $100,000 of textbooks that we're buying every year to Kim Furnish's point, because we have the Chromebooks. So why is one of the biggest ticket items the textbooks?
well,
So these are the kinds of questions that I just would like.
One thing there, Emily, Rick had articulated that the textbook line isn't the textbook line of the 1970s. There's other things that come out of that line, and also we get aid on that, about $130,000. So if you cut it, you're also cutting aid. There's a reciprocal impact to that.
And I can go through this again and try to get a little more specific, but I feel that it's almost, for lack of a better term, just irresponsible, really, for me to sit here and say, well, this is my negotiables and my non-negotiables, without talking to the people who are the ones really doing it on a day-to-day basis. So I don't know if we can open that conversation, not tonight, but soon.
Thank you. Arnett?
Obviously, the SRO is, is a great program. I mean, we all said it already. But I can't honestly sit here and say, yeah, let's make, teachers negotiable. We can't. I can't sit here and say, yeah, no, we need them. We need every single one that we have. If you get more, add on to it, whatever it is. For every program the kids need. The kids need all these teachers, and I'm sitting up here campaigning now, but not. There's lots to digest. The budget, and I've been out all last week, so right now, all I can say is, like Chad said, the education part of it, I can keep every teacher here if possible, as much as possible, and SROs and the rest of it, negotiables. I mean, we have to kind of go through it. It's the first time, week one of the budget session, right? So, just have to go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Kimmy?
For my non-negotiables, SROs are one of my non-negotiables. I think they do just more than what people think that they do in our district. I think they make those connections for our kids and keep them here. Mental health, I'm always going to advocate for. I think that it's a big part, not just for our staff, but for our students. And, you know, like Emily said, the fine arts, but not just the fine arts. I think that those programs that we have for our kids, and I'll speak till I'm blue in the face about the trades and those programs that keep those students who don't want to come to school here. It's very important. So I don't want to see any of our programs or teachers cut in any of those aspects, because those are the connections that keep them here, especially, you know, our trades, our arts, our sports, and all that. For negotiables, I had originally had that I wanted to look at our healthcare and can we go out, and Drew's already on that, so you kind of answered that question for me for one of my negotiables. Another one is, although Emily, you say just nickel and diming, but all those pennies that we can cut and save in those line items are going to start to add up. And, you know, if we can save teachers and not print so much, or save teachers and not utilize, you know, a certain recycling center, you know, so contracts and looking at those smaller negotiations is something that is negotiable for me completely.
All right. So I'll go against the grain a little bit. Sorry. I'm not ready to answer that question yet. I haven't been here 30 years. I've been here 7. And I think every year I get up and I say some of the same things, but in the reality of it is that might not be what's important to everybody, but most importantly, kids. So week 1 of budget season, everyone gets scared and we're like, oh crap, oh Jesus, look at this money that we're, you know. But then we come back next week and it's like a magic wand is waved and Drew sits in his office for 100 hours a week and magically that big number goes to this because he's done this and this is what he's very, very good at. So to me right now, nothing is negotiable. I want everything, and you know I'm that guy. Sorry, I want what's best for our staff. Our staff works their butts off, and I want what's best for our students. You know, I think this is a great place. I just want to keep getting better, and that's why I'm here. That's why I do this. So I want to wait till next week. To me, I don't want to see anything except what next week's budget is, because I think that's when the magic starts to happen a little bit next week. So for me, that's it. I want to keep it all, including our staff. That's the most important thing. Sorry.
But I think we want to hear from our staff too. We want to hear, you know, how they're feeling. What do they think? You know, so we can work hand in hand. Like they've asked of us. I think that's a good point.
So I will summarize what you've given me tonight and send it to you in your Friday meeting. And then you can let me know if I missed anything or misrepresented anything.
All right, so moving on then, since that is somewhat finalized for tonight, discussion on the tax cap and if or who is willing to go at, under, or over the 3.25, correct?
Yes.
All right, so, I don't know, want to do the same order there, Pam? Lead us off?
My preference is to stay under the tax cap. But if I look at the budget and see that there are things that are eliminated to stay under that budget, that percentage, and I can't possibly go along with those things, then I reserve the right to suggest that we go over. But I think our goal should be to stay underneath the tax cap.
Okay. Chad?
I'm with Pam on that one. Speaking to community members, I would preferably like to stay under, but if there's a scenario where it is, like I said, with my non-negotiables, that we're keeping staff here, that we're keeping good programming here, I feel comfortable that taking that to the community and saying, hey, we will need to go up. I feel they're supportive of our services and our teachers, so if we have to, for that purpose, absolutely, but I would prefer to be under.
Okay. Emily?
I would prefer to be under the tax cap as well, with the same stipulations that Pam and Chad have offered.
Okay, thank you. Carject?
Same, standard, until Drew waves his magic wand.
Exactly. Kimmy?
It's a hard thing because I know that we live in an Alice community, and I know that we want the best for our teachers. So there's no way we can go above the tax cap. It's just not going to happen. We can't afford it. But saying at the tax cap gives us a little bit, because we can always be under that tax cap. We don't have to go out at the tax cap, and we're talking a 0.25 on the taxes because, 3% is what we try to go out at every year. So I'm going to say at the tax cap, I'm going to break the curve. At or below, because I think that we're going to need to be at the tax cap to maintain what we can do, but not go above the tax cap at all.
Okay. I'm in that same category. I'm willing to go out at the tax cap at 3.25. As I've said to some of the board members, and I know it's been talked about amongst us with what the village may or may not do. And I've just cautioned everybody that we can't control what the village does. We need to worry about our kids and staff at Scotia-Glenville. So we need to be sure that we're fiduciary responsibility, which is a big responsibility of the Board of Education. So I'm fine with going out at the 3.25.
So it sounds as though the majority of you would like to stay under the tax cap at this point, if that's possible.
Correct. It would be 4 to be under if possible, and then 2 that are okay if we had to go out at. Obviously, under is fine, but I'm saying that
We prefer to go under.
So.
Well, we've got to make a choice that we can report. It sounds to me as though under is our choice. Drew, do you need anything else to finish up that?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me. All right, moving on. If I could get a motion, please, for resolution item number 6.
I'll make a motion that we accept the gift and donation from the Scotia-Glenville Friends of Music to the high school music department as submitted.
Thank you, Emily. And a second.
A second.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or comments on that one? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved with thanks. Same thing for resolution number 7, please. If I get a motion and a second.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the resolution accepting donations for various senior high school award scholarships.
Thank you, sir. And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Again, with thanks for everybody. Motion for resolution number 8, please.
A motion to award the 2024-2025 capital outlay project contract.
Thank you. And second.
Second.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions on that?
I had a question on that. Is this bid that we got here, Drew?
This is for the middle school auditorium carpeting to be replaced, and the stairwell pads in the middle school stairwells will be replaced.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Can I get a motion for communication, please?
I'll move communications A and B, staffing 1 through 7, the placement of students with disabilities, the minutes from the January 13th and the January 27th meetings, and the bid for the pupil transportation as submitted.
I'll second.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or comments on all that? Nope, if not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? So moved. Moving on to routine business. Are there any questions or comments on any internal claims, warrants, or warrant report expectations? No? So moved. Any questions on the treasurer's report or the budget transfers for January 2025? So moved. Moving on to other business. The Health and Safety Committee meeting in February 25. Questions on that? Okay. Other business. Does anyone have any other business to discuss?
I want to congratulate all of our Odyssey of the Mind teams that competed this weekend. I have it on my phone here so I didn't miss anybody. Glenn Dahl took first place, and they are going to state for problem 1. Problem 5 in elementary also did a great job. They're taking second place. Lincoln is going to states. Division 1 took second place, and they got a lottery spot to attend states. Problem 3 in our elementary took third place, and problem 5 in our elementary took fourth place. Glen Warden, problem 5, took third place. Problem 1 took fourth place, and Scotia Middle School took fourth place. So we had a great representation of Scotia-Glenville at Odyssey of the Mind at Shen this weekend. So congratulations to all of our students, our coaches, and for Amanda for another great year.
Don't forget about the girls' basketball team. They're probably playing right now, so
Yeah,
good luck to them. And
right. Yeah, they won their first sectional game in a hot minute last week. Plus, we had several wrestlers that Wally finished 5th in the state. Robar finished 8th, I think. Just 4th, 5th. Wally finished 5th. Right, Robar was up 8th, I thought so. That was right. So congratulations to that, plus track and field, and everybody that made sectionals. That's just incredible for what we're doing. And now we get the fun. Hopefully it'll be spring sometime so they can play outside, but there's 4 feet of snow. So, any other business that anyone would like to talk about? All right, so at this time we'll open up the second hearing code to the floor. Just remind everybody that we have 30 minutes. Just please state your name if you'd like to address the board, and we will be capping you at 5 minutes tonight.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Marlette, 506 Mohawk Avenue. I'm loud enough, I don't really need a mic. A couple of things as I heard Drew's presentation that I want to make sure the board fully understands. I'm your friendly benefit lady, so I'm going to tell you how benefits work. You have, according to last week's benefit, or the last board meeting, you have 2 plans. You have a fully insured plan and a self-insured plan. What in the world does that mean? Fully insured means the insurance company pays the claims. They give you a percentage that's called an MLR, it's a medical loss ratio, and says that you collected $1,000 in premium and we paid $1,500 in claims. That would be a 50% medical loss, or 150% medical loss ratio. That's a fully insured plan. That's how that works. A fully insured plan, Scotia-Glenville pays the claims up to a certain amount. I don't care what consortium you're in, you're paying the claims. That's how that works. GLP-1s, Ozempic, Wegovy, I've been in benefits. They've all blown up across the country in the last 5 years. Most of us have mitigated and planned for this. I administer a self-insured plan currently for 155 heads. So it's a lot smaller than you guys. And we're walking in, we have the same problem. We're in education. We're a nonprofit Head Start group in New York State. It's not an easy day to be us. We walked into a 6% rate increase, and we negotiated it down to 3%. And our captive renewal, to be very sure, and I can go into captive. If you want me to sit and tell you what a captive is, we can sit and have a very long conversation about this. Our captive renewal hasn't come out yet, but we're anticipating about an 8%. And we ran in our fully insured plan at 135% MLR. Got a lot of stuff going on. 17% doesn't make sense. That's what I'm telling you. Doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Hello, again, I'm Elijah Kalinowski. Just sitting here and listening to all the conversations that go on about how everyone here's priority is the students. Not that they aren't open to sharing their opinions, but I don't really see any other students here. And I feel like, at least for the future, we as a school could do a better job trying to reach out and get the students to voice their opinions. Because one of the things that I heard come up as non-negotiables is the school resource officers. You could take my opinion, and I've had no interactions with the resource officers. I've said hi to them a couple times when they were first introduced, but I'm only one side of the story. There could be dozens of other students who've had amazing experiences with them. So at least for the future, I would like more attempts to outreach for the students' voices, whether it be through assemblies or just directly inviting students, any student who would like to have their opinion shared, as they're the people that you're trying to get this all situated for. Thank you.
Hi, Steve Sweeney. I just want to piggyback off something you just said, by the way. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't it, I think, Kim, you brought it up, Kim Talbot brought it up. Isn't there supposed to be a student representative on the board that doesn't vote? And that would be somewhere where these children, like him, who have issues and wants to bring up points, could bring that up to that student, and that student could be on the board giving you guys their suggestions. I mean, we've talked about this. I've heard it in the board several times, but yet every month I come, I've never seen a student up here on the Board of Education. And I know that was a mandate by the governor. So we should probably get on that and get a student up there.
We are.
So.
But thanks for.
Hi again. Angela Piazza. I just want to speak to my takeaway from what one board member said regarding, non-negotiables, one being the athletic trainer. If you know me, you know my daughters, they're very athletic, they're very involved in sports year-round, and their physical safety and well-being is obviously a top priority, as that would be for any other student or child in this district. But I think you need to make hard decisions, and to take away classes or courses and ask teachers to, what could we get rid of? That just sounds absurd. Maybe you need to cut the athletic trainer, unfortunately, this year with given the state of the budget, and then reinstate it in the next year if we're in a better position. But I really think that it's just concerning that, I'm hearing that, cut some, classes and academics, and almost asking teachers to who should we get rid of? That's absurd. And again, the physical safety, that is so important, but, it might not be in the cards right now. Thank you.
Carl DeCesar, 295 Swaggertown Road. Hi, everybody. I've been listening, and you guys have some tough decisions to make, and that's it's not going to be easy. Drew, I think everybody's interested to see what that magic wand looks like. I don't know if it's going to close the gap and get you guys under the budget, so that's a reality I think everybody's got to deal with. One of the non-negotiables I didn't hear from you guys was athletics. I don't believe I heard that from anybody. That's, I think if you think about a school district, it's really, there's three components. There's the academics, there's the arts, and there's the athletics. And, I believe all of those are important. So you guys, again, you're going to have tough decisions to make. And I do want to say on that note, the athletics note, Marcy, I don't know Marcy, but she's done a really good job of communicating. So that's been like a good refresher, I think, for everybody to see that there's some support and some excitement in the district. Now, the thing that I wanted to talk about was that as a board, without a vision or a mission, something to guide you through this process, there's going to be a lot of back and forth. There's going to be a lot of discussions that aren't going to get very far. And I don't want to harp on it, but I stood here in January, and one of the things that I was asking for, from my own personal reasons, was kind of the vision of what the board sees for our district and where we're going. And I would challenge you, I'm still waiting, so I'd challenge you to try to share that, so that as a community, we know what to expect. And I would believe that would help all of you in this difficult process too. We can talk about administrator salaries and all that. At the end of the day, this is when we need leadership. And if our leaders can get us through this, then they're worth every penny. So, if Drew can figure out a way to solve this problem, I have no problem with what you make. You probably should make more. And same goes for you, Susan. But this is a time where I really believe that people got to step up and prove that they're willing to find solutions. And everybody's not going to be happy, but I think as residents in the community, we deserve to know what the board's objectives are and where you see this going. So that's it. Thank you.
To Mr. DeCesar's point, I know we're not supposed to respond. I worked on I know that we worked a little bit toward, if Mr. DeCesar could send, I just wasn't entirely clear if the request was the board's vision for the board, or if it was our vision for the district, or if it was, and I got caught up in doing 4 or 5 different versions of it.
Well,
and I just would like a little more clarity.
Sure, so you have the original email, I sent it to everybody.
Yes.
And as I said to Mr. Torelli a couple of weeks ago, and I apologize to Carl, getting 7 people to tell you what their vision is isn't the easiest task in the world. So I have everyone's vision. I summarized it. No excuses. I was out of town for work, and then I got pretty sick. So that's on me to get it to you, but I'm glad you're here tonight, because I was going to tell you I have it summarized.
Great.
I would think, Emily, so you do have it, Emily. You just need to find it.
I have it. I feel like we responded. Some of us wrote our vision for the district. Some of us wrote our vision as a governing board. Some of us wrote, and I don't think that we all really were doing the same task. That's all I'm saying.
But it's really about the collective. It's about this whole process that you're about to embark on. It's defining what the priorities are, so that that's going to help you through this budget process too. It's trying to, and it creates transparency for us, the people who live in the community, for the educators, for everybody who makes this thing happen. This is going to be a difficult time. This is where you kind of fall back on that stuff, and you know what your values are, and it steers the ship in a sense. Yeah, so I would think collectively, and I see that, I didn't just kind of think of this. I looked at other districts, and I read what they wrote for their vision, and then I looked at ours, and I felt like there was really no content. There was no substance about what we prioritize as a district.
So as a district, we've always had a mission statement. That's been, but I agree with you, there wasn't a vision statement, so it's a great question that you asked us, and that's why it's taken a little while to get to it. So I'll let you know here, as I emailed the board, for the 5 of us that will be here next year, and then the 2 additions that will be here, I proposed to them already that we set that as a board goal for next year.
Great.
We work on that as a board with community members and the administration to set a vision for our district. So I'll get you the summary. It is a summary.
Yeah.
But the goal for next year, that would be my thing. I'm already going to tell you, since I'll be here next year, unless something happens to me, but I'll be here next year. That will be my board goal, is that as a board, we should set a vision.
Great. Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, and I think most of the people here probably appreciate the same thing too.
Well, I appreciate asking the question.
All right, thanks. Yep.
Excuse me. All right, is there anybody else tonight that would like to address the board? All right, if not, we will close the second hearing privilege of the floor. I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn.
Thanks, Kim. Second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? Thank you, everybody. Appreciate everybody showing up tonight.